We're going to dive into the world of decentralized things, decentralize all the things. And we are adding another puzzle piece to our decentralized internet world. We now have a decentralized rendering engine. It's just raised $30 million right in the midst of Metaverse going crazy, where a lot of people are in desperate need of such rendering engines. So you have giant investors like Multicoin, Alameda, and Solana Foundation. They're all backing Render Network's vision for a decentralized alternative to Pixar's massive rendering farms. The idea is that it would rival Pixar's massive rendering farms. It would also be cheaper for artists than cloud services like those offered by Amazon. The way that it works is you basically pool idle GPUs and you pay their operators in render tokens in order to use their processing power so that you can render things. So if you're a video editor, people are always using Amazon cloud services, or if now in the metaverse, you need to render these very complex 3D graphics, it requires a lot of computing power. Not many people can do this stuff on their home computers, and so they're using external sources. This is a way to kind of decentralize that and say we're not relying entirely on Pixar, we're not relying entirely on Amazon. Let's decentralize this. Kind of an interesting move there. But Zach, I saw your hand go up, so I'll throw to you.
I just want to talk tokens. The token, the render token, RNDR, pumping on the news, up about $1 to $5.70 on this announcement. Ooh. So up about 33% in the last 24, according to data from CoinDesk. Remember, it's not the tokens, folks. This project has been around since 2016, and I don't quite get it, but I get that the idea of using idle computing resources to provide alternatives to centralized gatekeepers is really powerful, and I think we're going to see more of that over time, right? We've seen this with Helium, which tries to do this with sort of idle bandwidth that people have in their homes. We've seen this with other sort of Internet of Things connectivity startups in the space, and I think we're probably going to see more of them as, again, sort of crypto familiarity slowly ticks upward among a critical mass of users. So this one, to me, though the details of it remain a little fuzzy to me, to be perfectly honest, the vision of it, where, hey, if I have some idle processing power, I can direct it toward a collective endeavor and be rewarded for doing so with a token that is pumping handsomely at the moment. That's an attractive value proposition to, I think, a bunch of people who are going to be more crypto conversant in the coming years. But I think I saw Will's hand, so I'm going to toss it down to him and run with it, please.
Totally. Yeah, there's actually a model for this that already exists, and that's mining. This is how all mining works as well. Like, you use idle computation power from a GPU or an ASIC or whatever, and you point it somewhere and you do some work on behalf of somebody else, and then you get a reward back and for it. So it's the same model. It's just applied to a different topic here, which is graphic rendering. And like Naomi was talking about, video editors or anyone who's kind of doing animations, they need a lot of computing power and able to create things. So if you go watch the movie Up and you see like all the animations they've done, well, they basically just do the sketches for that and create like some rough models on a computer. But to make it like that nice pristine image that Pixar is known for, you have to have a lot of computation for a machine has to basically craft that for you. And it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of computation, and it's super expensive. But there's a lot of GPUs just kind of sitting out there right now, especially if Ethereum mining ends in the next 6 months. A lot of that GPU power needs to go and point somewhere else. Otherwise, those machines are just scrapped. They're just bricks. But I think we're going to see more of this kind of pop up, GPU mining as a service, where if you have something, if you're a creator, you're someone out there who's building something in the animation space, you can just point and play to one of these services, pay a token or pay in dollars or whatever you want, and boom, you can start rendering it and make more animations, which is pretty crazy to see how that's going to change the whole ecosystem moving forward. There's going to be a place for some miners to move towards. Jen, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say what Zach said, but the article kind of focuses on the metaverse, right? And I think as we think about metaverses or the metaverse or a metaverse or whatever you want to call it, and the progression of it, like right now we've talked about this. When you go there, it just feels like a pretty basic computer game. You can run around, you can kind of do some things, but there's a lot of building to happen there. And so when I see projects like this come out that allow access to anyone to build 3D renderings for metaverses, I think that's really cool. You know, it's not just going to be the Pixars and the Facebooks that are building it. With projects like this, anyone can participate. It makes it more accessible and affordable to render this. And I think that is what we should be talking about when we talk about, the transition between Web 2 and Web 3. But I'll pass it back to you, Zach.
I think, no, you're absolutely right. Like decentralizing the metaverse stack is an ambitious goal. And I think projects such as this that are incentivize users in the form of monetary rewards through tokens is something that we may see more of as people seek to, again, decentralize the stack of these metaverse experiences that everyone and their mother thinks are going to be ubiquitous in 5 years. So I don't know, interesting thought, but I saw Naomi and I'm curious for hers.
Yeah, I just love that this is yet another puzzle piece we've added in and a thing that we're figuring out how to decentralize. So Filecoin, you've got it decentralizing storage. And currently it's like hosting things like, WikiLeaks, Wikipedia, all of these different important treasure troves of information. We don't want them hosted on like a single server. And so we're figuring out how to decentralize that information. Helium, as you already mentioned, Will, decentralizing bandwidth. We don't want to just be relying on centralized internet service providers, like all of these, like we're figuring out how to decentralize exchanges, things like ThorChain. Like I'm loving Web 3.0. I'm loving this decentralization movement. I think we have a long way to go and we shouldn't kid ourselves that we are removed from this centralized position, because there's so much like DNS servers, like we have unstoppable domains as a way to decentralize that, but there's such a long way to go to get out of the fact that, so much of the internet is still centralized. I agree with him 100% there. Like, although I disagree with the VC remark as that being the evil part of this, I completely agree with him that we need to be mindful of how centralized these systems still are in a lot of ways when we use them. But we're definitely making strides and I'm so excited and I wish we could move faster and I want more of that VC money to pile in so we can get more people working on this, because decentralization is so important, because if it's centralized, the government could just like cut cables or do whatever and we could shut down entire systems. We don't want that. We want redundancy. Very excited to see this. But Zach, I'll throw to you.
Yeah, I was going to say something about just like, there's a time aspect to this like VCs are bad conversation that I feel like is getting skipped over here. This is a project and a token that's been around for a number of years, right? So the thing about crypto and capital formation is that anyone can participate, right? They can get in on this token and they benefit from later actors, including Multicoin, Alameda, and the Solana Foundation, aping into this token much later than when they may have done that. So I think, as much as we've sort of vilified the VC, the big bad VC when it comes to Web3 development, there are other earlier actors who stand to benefit from their involvement. I think sometimes that gets glossed over. So Render may be a good example of that. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. I went on a rant. I'm not trying to stand.
The rant.